Hi, I'm Daryl Black, and I'm here to help you be the leader you would want. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is an introductory video, and I'll be using it to share a lot of techniques, concepts, thoughts around leadership and that journey that is so important, that leadership journey. So we'll be updating the videos once or twice a week, so please remember to subscribe. Now, where did this journey begin for me, and why am I doing this channel? Why am I doing Facebook? Why am I doing Instagram? Why am I blogging? Well, throughout my life, I have really seen leadership in action in myriad ways. And the context by which I've seen most of the leadership, or at least really paid attention to the leadership, was during times of crisis. So crisis is a context by which we will be talking a lot about leadership. So the question is asked, well, why leadership? And why crisis? Well, two things. One of which, why leadership? I don't see the people, boots on the ground, the individuals in the trenches, the frontline staff, the frontline team members having issues that can't be resolved through strong leadership. And over the years, I've witnessed the leadership styles, some really good ones, maybe some ones that were lacking in effectiveness. I've seen leadership styles that were effective short term, but maybe over the long term not very effective at all. I've seen leaders be promoted and they are now leading peers. So you have somebody that is laterally the same, and then they get promoted and they're in charge or looking after that team. And so there are some challenges around that. I've personally grappled with the issues around leadership. How do we share information? How do we manage stress? How do I truly connect with the team? How do I drive the outcomes that I need? How do I get to where we need to get to and do it in as effective and efficient manner as possible? So an analogy that I've often used, and particularly around leadership as it relates to crisis, which I'll talk about next, is that of a swimming pool and swimming. So if you can visualize a swimming pool, I don't know, 50 meters, whatever the width or length would be, it doesn't matter. We dive in one end and we dog paddle, we struggle, we're treading water a little bit, we're going all over the pool left and right, we're expending a ton of energy, we're being really inefficient, but damn, we're working hard at it. We get to the other end, we get out of the pool, we high five, we're like, man, whew, that sucked, but we did it, we got to the end. And there's not a lot of reflection oftentimes on how bad that really, really was. But we just see the outcome and we're like, okay, I can do this. Well, that's how we often lead. We dog paddle, we tread water a little bit, we're meandering a little bit. Maybe sometimes we're getting kicked in the face and our goggles fall off, you name it. Well, that's one way of reaching the end of the swimming pool, but there is another way. So let's visualize this. We dive in. We have a very smooth stroke, all right? We're swimming well, we're strong, we have really good technique, we're being really efficient and effective. We're staying in more or less a straight line. Yeah, once or twice we get kicked in the head, maybe another swimmer, but that's okay because we are seeing where we're going. We're traveling in the same direction. We get to the end of the pool. The pool is 50 meters. We get to the end, we high five, but there's a difference. This time, we're not nearly as tired. This time, we're not nearly as frustrated. This time, I feel actually really good about it, and I'm ready to tackle the next swimming pool without too much of a problem. And I've got a team that I've supported. They were right behind me the whole way, and they weren't getting kicked in the face. Their goggles weren't coming off. They were able to see exactly where they were going. They were really actually emulating the techniques I was using. So we get to the end of the pool. I look over at the person that was struggling. They're exhausted. They are frustrated. They are not necessarily excited about going further, but because we've had good technique, we've used concepts really, really well, we've been efficient and effective, we get to the end of that swimming pool and we're ready to go. So that's how I treat leadership, and it's very, very difficult to do, just so we're clear. Leadership is hard. But what I am a strong proponent of is that we lean in, we engage in leadership. We don't step back, we don't hide from it, okay? We step in and we challenge. We challenge the situation. We want to create a bias towards action where we're not standing back and being stagnant. We're leaning in, we're engaging in the problems that we're trying to solve. Now, the second part of that is around this concept of crisis. I use crisis a lot as a backdrop of conversation for leadership. And why crisis? Well, if you can lead during crisis, you can lead at any time. The reason being is during crisis, time is probably a factor, or lack thereof. Information could be lacking. The information we have could be outright wrong. We could be in situations that we don't have a clear rule book for. The processes and procedures and staffing models that we have during non-crisis may not apply to crisis. As well, we can actually use crisis to strengthen the team, strengthen our leadership, and come out of crisis on the other side even stronger than when we went in. And some of you are saying, well, crisis, geez, man, that's, I've never been in a flood, I've never been in a wildfire or earthquake or any of that other crisis. Well, ask yourself, have you ever been in a situation in your life personally where you've had to make some pretty significant decisions, where you had to make a decision on a career, a relationship, family matters, financial, you've had a divorce, you're getting married. Yeah, those are crises in the pure sense of the word, where there's a big change. You have to make a decision, a turning point. So crisis can be anything. But here's the really interesting thing. Crisis is really the same, whether it be personal, team, organizational, financial, insert word there. It really is all the same. Now, the scope and scale of it might be different. Absolutely, I got that. We've responded to the floods in southern Alberta, for example, dealing with thousands and thousands of people. Headed up to a wildfire up in northern Alberta, where there was an evacuation of 88,000 people from a municipality. I have worked through a very, very significant labor interruption for a large telecommunications company, second largest at the time in the country. And you talk about crisis, oh, absolutely, absolutely, where there was no rule book. The information was lacking. The information that we did have was probably wrong. Stress levels were through the roof. And people were very, very upset on both sides of that interruption, both on the management and the LR, or labor relations side. So crisis is a really good backdrop to talk about leadership, because if you can lead during crisis, you can lead anywhere. So what I'll be doing over the next series of videos, continuing through Facebook posts and my blog, will be to socialize a lot of the concepts and techniques that I've found to be effective, both personally, through observation, maybe through some reading materials, through other videos, for example, and because I am truly a student of leadership. Yeah, I've practiced it a lot. I've done some really great things. I've done some really, probably not so great things. But each time I've learned. So when I pick up an article, I look online at a post or something like that, I'm looking at it through the lens of leadership, and specifically crisis leadership. So what is this video series not? Well, it is not a scientific study on human behavior, on leadership. Absolutely, there will be some science thrown in around behavior, because for sure that is super important. But I am not an ologist by any stretch. I'm not a psychologist, sociologist, psychotherapist, any of those types of things. I've got a few letters behind my name, but none of them are medical doctor or a psychologist or any of those types of things. So I am going to be conveying the information as I understand it through the behaviors and techniques and skills that I have seen. So does it mean that sometimes the science will be a little bit rocky? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But that said, if you were to get 10 ologists in a room, you're going to end up with 11 different opinions. So I implore you to listen to what I'm saying around what I observe, what has worked, maybe what hasn't, and less around, is there a scientific study to back that up? And I'm not saying that science isn't important. I'm not saying that academia doesn't have a place. They absolutely do have a place in leadership and the science of human behavior and human factors. Absolutely. But I am here to give you some tools and techniques that you can use on the ground starting tomorrow. Things that are practical, things that are insightful, things that are realistic. And you know what? Some of the things I'm not super proud of in terms of what I've seen and what I've done during my leadership journey, but I think that that's a really good opportunity for us all to learn so that we're not all making the same mistakes. So at the end of the day, it's about actionable knowledge, things that you can use tactically to be a better leader. So please subscribe and comment and interact as much as you possibly can, because these series of videos will be a gateway, a doorway into further learning, further education, further knowledge. At the end of the day, just remember, folks, crisis is not about what is happening. It's really about who it's happening to. So please remember that. So I'm Daryl Black. I'm here to help you be the leader you would want. So subscribe now, and we'll talk to you soon.